everybody says the same thing. Oh, if Gane has been working on his wrestling, then I think he's got a good shot. And then I had another guy say the same thing. So I think everybody thinks this comes down to Gane's defensive wrestling.
Yeah, excited. This is the fight I want. This is the fight I wanted before the Gagey fight. It's just the fight that answers a lot of questions. It's just the fight that kind of shuts everyone up. That's why it's so excited. I feel like, all right, everyone, it's time to shut up and stop asking me when I'm going to be fighting again next November 22nd. It's all going down. Me, Arman Tsarukyan. I'm going to cave his head in. It's over for him.
Two massive UFC battles are set to ignite the octagon. Arman Tsarukyan faces Dan Hooker in a high-stakes lightweight clash, while Tom Aspinall takes on Ciryl Gane in a heavyweight showdown, promising explosive action and unforgettable moments. As the fight approaches, Tom Aspinall explained how he handles pressure. He said every fighter feels it, but some perform better under stress than others. Aspinall considers himself someone who shines under pressure. He also noted that his opponent carries pressure too, especially with previous title shots, making this matchup a true test for both fighters and their ability to stay composed in high-stakes situations. He said, absolutely, but there are certain types of athletes, certain types of people, not just athletes. There's those that pressure wears down and those who shine under pressure, and I'm 100% part of the latter. Further, he said, that being said, it's not just me under pressure, it's his third title shot, and he failed the first two. There is pressure on both of us. Tom then described the pressure of fighting in front of millions of fans. Beyond titles or rankings, he said the hardest part is avoiding public defeat. Every fighter experiences the stress, but managing it is key. Aspinall points out that mental toughness is just as important as physical skill, and staying calm under pressure can make the difference between winning and losing in a big fight. He said, every fight you go into, there's pressure. I can't speak for the rest of the fighters, but I don't want to get kicked in front of millions of people. Finally, he added, that's the biggest pressure for me. Titles, rankings, and stats aside, I don't want to get beaten up publicly. So yeah, there's always pressure, but that's part of being a fighter. Furthermore, as fight night draws closer, analysts are diving deep into the heavyweight clash between Tom Aspinall and Ciryl Gane, breaking down potential keys to victory. Among them, Dane Thomas shared his unique perspective, analyzing both fighters' strengths into what could ultimately decide this high-stakes showdown.
So this was the one fight where I actually sought out other opinions from other people. Normally, you know me, I'm just like, I do my own work, or I just try to remember what guys are good at. So I actually sought out other opinions from other people. I'm in a text group with a couple of old heads, and I'm like, yo, what do you guys think about this fight? And everybody says the same thing. Oh, if Gane has been working on his wrestling, then I think he's got a good shot. And then I had another guy say the same thing. So I think everybody thinks this comes down to Gane's defensive wrestling. And I'm not necessarily sure I agree with that.
Yeah.
I don't agree with that. I think everybody always assumes that they go, oh, Tom Aspinall's finally got a guy in front of him who can move with him. But I think it's the other way around.
Building on his breakdown of movement and matchups, Dane urged a tough test for Tom Aspinall. Thomas said fighters need to be forced into real wars to reveal weaknesses. He argued that if Ciryl Gane can push Aspinall hard, test his cardio and toughness, then fans will see who truly belongs at the top. That kind of stress shows true champions and crowns heroes.
Gotta dog this guy out. This guy hasn't been in a fight. He's never, we've never seen Tom Aspinall in a real fight. So let's get him in a real fight. Let's make him work. Let's make him bleed. Let's let him see his own morality. He's got to see that, and then we can go to work. But let's put him in a real fight. And if Ciryl Gane is capable of that, we might have a good fight on our hands.
In addition, Anthony Smith talked about the huge pressure fighters face. He explained that performing against a tough opponent like Tom Aspinall isn't easy, especially when facing someone with a different style and strengths like Ciryl Gane. Even experienced athletes need to adapt quickly. How Tom handles this pressure can show his skill, mental toughness, and readiness, and it can affect how fans and analysts compare him to past top fighters. He said, well, yeah, the pressure is absolutely on. He needs to go in and have a phenomenal performance versus Ciryl Gane. Because if he has a close fight with Ciryl Gane and it's not fair to Tom, what we're going to do to him if he ends up in a tight fight with Gane. Further, he added, all the while he's been thinking about John Jones for a year, now he has to flip the script to Ciryl Gane. a totally different athlete and problem. Meanwhile, as fight night nears, analysts are highlighting what makes Tom Aspinall a standout athlete. Demetrius Johnson focused on Tom's size, athletic ability, and deep understanding of mixed martial arts. He pointed out that having a long-term coach and trainer has helped Tom grow consistently, creating a strong partnership that enhances his skills and prepares him to perform at the highest level in the octagon. He said, Tom Aspinall is very, very, very athletic and very, very big. I met him in person. He's very knowledgeable. He knows what he's doing. He has had the same coach, the same trainer his entire life. Further, he also said, and when you have that dynamic duo and you build off each other, it only makes the athlete better. While Tom Aspinall was preparing for his next challenge against Ciryl Gane, attention is also on other top fighters in the UFC. During a recent interview, Arman Tsarukyan talked about how his next fight was decided. He explained that he wanted to stay active since the title fight wasn't happening this year, and Arman said he was open to facing anyone ready to step in. After a few names were discussed, Gage declined, but Dan Hooker agreed to take the fight, setting the matchup in motion.
The title fight, and they said this year Ile, he's not gonna fight, so that's why I said I'll fight to anybody, because I haven't fought a long time, so I wanna fight. And Dan Hooker, Gage, works for me, these names. And finally Gage, like I heard, like Gage said no, and Hooker said yes, so we are in.
When talking about the upcoming fight, Arman made it clear that he doesn't see it as personal. He said it's just business and part of what fighters do. Arman mentioned that in real life, Dan Hooker stays quiet and respectful, but when the cameras are on, he tries to talk more and act tough to build hype around the fight.
I mean, no, it's not personal fight, because it's just
You remember this one?
It's just a business,
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's a business. Yeah, of course. On the real life, I know he's gonna shut his mouth and like he couldn't say anything about me. But when it's gonna be media or a lot of people, of course.
Leading up to the fight, Dan Hooker reflected on why he specifically wanted the matchup with Arman Tsarukyan. Hooker made it clear that this fight represented the challenge he was seeking, offering a true test of skill, determination, and the chance to prove himself against one of the toughest competitors in the lightweight division.
Yeah, excited. This is the fight I want. This is the fight I wanted before the Gage fight. It's just the fight that answers a lot of questions. It's just the fight that kind of shuts everyone up. That's why it's so excited. I feel like, regardless of the bad blood, I feel like he is the best fighter in the division, skill for skill. And so it's like, who do you want to beat? You want to beat the best guy you can possibly get your hands on. So that's why it's such an exciting fight for me, is because I feel like he is the best fighter in the division, including the champion. I feel like he is the best fighting. There's obviously other exciting fights out there for the fans, like the Gage fight. I know everyone was hanging out, but personally, I wanted the Arman fight.
Before explaining why he accepted the fight, Dan Hooker shared how difficult it is for anyone to step in against Arman Tsarukyan. He said most top fighters avoid taking that risk, especially after Arman's recent weight issues gave others an excuse to turn down a fight. According to Hooker, the situation made it easier for others to dodge Arman without facing criticism.
And so I knew that between me and Arman Tsarukyan, that absolutely no one wants to fight the guy. I know that no one wants to take that risk. I knew that some of the bigger name guys, because now they have a reason to avoid him as well. Like everyone does have a reason to avoid him with the weight miss and things like that. There'll be a lot of like now the champion has an excuse to not fight the guy, and like a legitimate excuse in that the UFC and you put so much time into something and then a guy pulls out at the weight cut is a legitimate excuse for a champion.
Continuing his point, Dan said he understood Arman needed another big win to get back into title talks. That's why he agreed to face him, calling Arman the toughest challenge in the division, and testing himself against the best competition available.
And the UFC to not put you into a big fight, I knew that he had to fight to get back into title contention. So I knew that this fight, I would be the only person that would want the most difficult fight. I don't discredit the other guys for picking their battles and trying to find the most least path of resistance, but that's just not the way that I do things. I think that he's the toughest test. I think he's the best fighter in the division, and so that's the way that I want to go. I want to go the hardest way.
Leading up to the fight, Dan Hooker explained why he decided to accept the matchup with Arman Tsarukyan. He shared that most fighters avoided facing Arman, making this one of the toughest challenges in the division. Hooker also mentioned some delays with medical clearance and prior fight pullouts, but emphasized that he's fully prepared and confident in his training heading into the fight.
No, it's a good fight. Like, you're at the stage you'd fight anyone ranked above me, and like, I just knew that no one will fight Arman. I knew that it was the toughest fight. I know Charles Oliveira had like a pullout. I still only got, well, I think that's what the holdup was. I hadn't actually got my medical clearance till Wednesday. So I got my medical clearance yesterday when I.
And then they announced your fight. What a coincidence!
Yeah, I believe that might have been the actual hold up with it. So yeah, I've obviously been in the gym training, but the body feels good.
Merab Dvalishvili discussed the Arman Tsarukyan versus Dan Hooker matchup. He pointed out Arman's grappling advantage, but also acknowledged Hooker's experience and danger as an opponent. His perspective adds insight from someone inside the sport, giving fans a clearer idea of what to expect in the octagon.
Yes, absolutely. This is a good fight, Arman Tsarukyan versus Dan Hooker, and I guess from this fight winner will be #1 contender. It's a good for sport. I will say like Arman Tsarukyan has more chance because of his grappler, but Dan Hooker is very experienced, very dangerous opponent too. Because he was able to stop another grappler like Mateusz Gamratis, and we'll see. It's an interesting fight.
Thank you, Bron.
In addition, the fighters and analysts shared their thoughts. Veteran commentator Michael Bisping weighed in on Arman Tsarukyan's strengths. He highlighted Arman's skills, past wins, and how well-rounded he is as a mixed martial artist. Bisping also reminded fans of Arman Tsarukyan's experience in tough matchups, his previous losses, and the way he has bounced back, setting the stage for why this fight against Dan Hooker is so important.
But Arman Tsarukyan, we know what he can do. The man can do it all. Literally, he's a very, very well-rounded mixed martial artist, and he is in his absolute prime. He's only 28 years old with a professional record of 22 wins and 3 losses. Those 3 losses, one of them was to Mateusz Gamrot that Dan Hooker did beat, and of course he lost his UFC debut to Islam Makhachev that he took on short notice, and he still gave Islam a really good run for his money. Outside of those 2 losses, the man's been absolutely flying and finishing a lot of people. Finished Joel Alvarez, put a beat down on Joel Alvarez, who's doing tremendous things. I finished Beneil Dariush in a stunning combination. It was a knee to punches, a flying knee I think it was, and then some punches. Then he beat Charles Oliveira by split decision at UFC 300, and that should have been when he got to fight for the belt, but of course, as we know, he injured his back.
Continuing his analysis, Bisping discussed the stakes of the fight and what a win or loss could mean for both fighters. He highlighted Arman's recent 4-fight winning streak and emphasized that Dan Hooker remains a dangerous opponent. Bisping explained why this matchup is key for determining the next title contender in the lightweight division, and how both fighters' current forms will influence the outcome.
Struggled to make weight, whatever the case may be, he got sidelined for a bit. Well, he's coming back in Qatar, and he's the main event. This is going to be a really key fight. If Dan Hooker wins this one, we could have a new contender. If Arman Tsarukyan wins this, then of course the man is going to fight for the belt next. He's only got 3 losses on his record. 2 of them are in the UFC. One was to Mateusz Gamrot, but since then the man is on a 4-fight win streak, and he kind of is the next guy in line. But of course he's going to get through Dan Hooker, and that ain't going to be easy. This version of Dan Hooker, the version of Dan Hooker that is covered in tattoos from neck to toe, the version of Dan Hooker that's going through a midlife crisis and holding bloody scraps in his backyard.
As fight night nears, all eyes turn to the heavyweight showdown, Tom Aspinall versus Ciryl Gane. Aspinall's size, athleticism, and ability to thrive under pressure meet Gane's championship experience and tactical mastery, promising explosive action and career-defining moments. In the lightweight division, Arman Tsarukyan clashes with Dan Hooker in a high-stakes battle that could reshape the rankings. Hooker's bravery in facing one of the division's toughest opponents and Arman's grappling prowess set the stage for a war in the octagon. Both matchups guarantee unforgettable fights, high drama, and outcomes that will ripple across the UFC landscape. So, who do you think will come out on top in each fight? Arman Tsarukyan or Dan Hooker? And Tom Aspinall or Ciryl Gane? Let us know your predictions in the comments.